But when we really get down to it, I think a lot of men our age, in our generation, don't have community.
Yeah.
And other folks call it tribe, right? We don't have that group of people and like-minded men that we can push together and push and try to be better versions of ourselves, right? And part of that is with young Republicans. Obviously, it's not just men; it's a lot of women as well. But nonetheless, finding like-minded men is an incredibly important part.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the rates of suicide in men, incredibly alarming, right? But if I think we can help alleviate some of that pressure of what guys our age are facing and what they're feeling, they're feeling lost, they're feeling that they don't have that tribe. If we can come together and create organizations like Young Republicans, like a church, like a community. If you're going to play pickleball with a group of dudes on the weekend, that's a tribe. That's your tribe.
Yeah.
And we just need to find more of that today.
Yeah, and that's really like me as an American and as a man myself. I graduated college. I hustled as hard as I could to find a career that I like. I love my career and my profession in software sales.
Yeah.
Something we have in common. But over the course of the past few years, I was like, okay, man, I have a good career that I like my relationship. I have a good relationship with my parents. But man, I just kind of feel like I'm lacking something. And that's really where I started to get into, Jordan Peterson.
Yep.
I'm a big advocate of Jordan Peterson and his philosophy on life. But something that he talks about is, yes, you need to find your purpose as a man. Once you achieve that, you also need to find something bigger than yourself. That's why a lot of people join the military and get fulfillment out of it. That's why a lot of people find communities or gyms or, whatever it may be. And that's where, one, I started the podcast, and two, I started to look for these communities of like-minded men and women that, share my ideas and, something where I can talk to other people and, get out of my cave of working virtual and all that stuff. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. So why conservative politics? I mean, like I was born and raised in San Diego as well. California, I think we are conservatives are outnumbered 1-4, 1-5, compared to liberals or progressives. Which those terms kind of bleed together these days.
They do.
But it kind of seems like you're the outlier as a conservative. So like, what made you want to get into that, and how did you stay so tough in this world?
It wasn't easy. Back in high school, I really enjoyed trap shooting with my dad and didn't view it as shooting guns per se. I viewed it as, hey, this is a hobby I get to do with my dad. No different than if you're working on a motorcycle or, playing catch out back, right? It doesn't matter. We were just having a hobby together. I was 17 at the time and noticed that there was this weird group of folks up in this town called Sacramento that were trying to take away my ability to go trap shooting with my dad. And I didn't understand it at first, right? I was like, okay, I get it. I'm using a shotgun, but I'm locking it up. I'm traveling with it safely. All the right things that we want to do as safe gun owners. And so I started looking into it, and I'm like, what's going on with this group up of weirdos up in the swamp of Sacramento? And it turned out that they were trying to take away my ability as someone under the 18 to purchase and utilize a firearm, especially a long gun like a shotgun. And so I dove into it. I did my research. That's where it all starts for most of us. We find something. Most of the time, we're not searching for politics.
Yeah.
Politics finds us.
Totally.
And that's where it found me. I realized at 17 that there was a group of liberals and a group of conservatives. And then there was a few parties in between that align roughly with those ideologies. And so I started searching, all right, who wants to keep my ability to have a hobby with my dad and who wants to take it away? Quickly learned, there's Republicans, there's Democrats, there's independents. In fact, in the state right now, Republicans are making a turnaround, which is very nice. Mm-hmm. Just a few years ago, we were actually the third largest party here in the state, which is embarrassing. Democrats,
I didn't know that.
independents, then Republicans. Horrible. We've turned that around now. More and more people are registering as Republicans. We're now the second largest party in the state, second to Democrats.
Yeah.
But that's how I got into it. It's not something I was searching out. It really found me. From then on, registered Republican, strong conservative, believing in individual freedoms and the ability to pursue a life that you want to build yourself. And I think that's what can unite a lot of people across the country.
Yeah, it's almost, and I always joke about this, but, 12, 13 months ago, I couldn't tell you what a Democrat or Republican was because I didn't care about politics like most people our age.
Yeah.